A huge scandal came out about the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, the guy that was actually trying to run for vice president. And thank God he's not our vice president, because that would be such a clown show. I highly believe if you are a Democratic governor and you receive funding from the government for something like Medicaid or helping the homelessness, there is always going to be some sort of money laundering or scandal behind it. Because it is wild in itself that if you look into these Democratic leaders, there is always scandals behind it. There's always money missing. One scandal that I can think of the top of my head real quick is Newsom in that bullet train. He received billions of dollars and never laid down a track for it. And Minnesota is being investigated left and right by the Trump administration, the DOJ, the FBI, because there was a lot of Medicaid programs that were funded. And surprise, surprise, the money's not there. Everything is missing. And nobody is talking about it. If this was Ron DeSantis or something, this came out, every single news organization will be talking about it, saying that he should be in jail. But no Democrats are talking about this. This is something that they just want to sweep under the rug and get rid of it for good. But luckily, Elon bought Twitter, and we can see the real news. That's why I don't even go on these news sites no more. I literally get my news off of like Twitter and private or news organizations. If you're watching this video and don't know what I'm talking about, well, you're about to get educated, because clearly the news doesn't want you to know about this. Only Fox is reporting on this, which is sad. So this is the assistant U.S. attorney right here, giving out the news of what happened. Let's go ahead and watch it.
I spoke in the fall about the iceberg I saw ahead. Something's fraud that's much larger than what's been visible to the public. When I said that, it wasn't hyperbole or rhetoric, it was a warning. And today I want to talk, and I want to show here a sense of what that iceberg looks like, because I think people deserve to know what that is and how big this problem is, because we can't solve the problem until we grapple with the size of it. So the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services pulled the claims data for these 14 programs dating back to 2018. And those 14 programs in Minnesota have cost $18 billion since 2018.
That's crazy.
And more than $3.5 billion in 2024 alone.
$3.5 billion.
So that's a sense of the magnitude of the problem. These are the 14 Medicaid programs, which is just a part of Medicaid, these waivered services that have been flagged as having issues with program integrity and fraud. Now, I'm sure everyone is wondering how much of this $18 billion was fraud. It's not the $1 million question, that's the $18 billion question. The answer is far too much, and the task ahead of all of us is not only figuring out how much of that money was fraud.
So like I said, there's so many scandals within that amount of money and the amount of time. They have to really look into it to find all these connections, right? Because if it was just like one little thing, right, they would have found it, like, okay, maybe $1 million. Okay, well, we'll figure that out, what happened. They are taking a lot of resources to investigate this. It is bigger than what we are seeing. Clearly, from what he's saying, it's the $18 billion question. This is billion, not million, with a B. That's wild. That's crazy.
Prosecutor says half of Medicaid's $18 billion claims paid to Minnesota programs could be fraudulent. Prosecutors charged 5 people in a Minnesota housing fraud scheme today. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson claims 2 defendants pocketed $750,000 to travel to international destinations instead of helping Medicaid recipients find stable housing. Prosecutor says half of
So pretty much they spent money that was supposed to be for people on themselves to go on vacation. What are you paying for a $1 million vacation? What are you doing? You going to like Epstein Island with that money? Like, I'm pretty sure they are.
It's interesting. He's made quite a few maneuvers that are questionable, I would say, over these last years. Now appointing, I should say, a fraud czar, but he closed at the statewide level an office that investigated fraud for many years. There are questions about that. This has only renewed the call for Governor Tim Walz to resign. He is currently running for a 3rd term as governor, but this has really ramped up under his watch. The last 7 years, all of this fraud exploding onto the national scene.
Crazy.
I think it's 5 or 6 federal investigations that have now been announced in Minnesota from SNAP, our welfare fraud. The state doesn't want to give that over. Our voter rolls, Minnesota doesn't want to hand that over to the feds. Illegal immigrants having commercial driver's licenses here. In fact, President Trump saying that Walz has turned Minnesota into a fraudulent hub of money laundering activity. Those are the president's words.
Which is not a shocker because they're literally getting taken over by a foreign nation. Of course, there's money laundering. They are criminals. All these people are criminals. But do you think that anything's going to happen? I don't think so. I just don't have any faith in the Trump administration that they're going to arrest anybody. I don't know. I know it's only been a year. He still got 3 more. But, man, some of these people need to be thrown into prison. At least arrest one politician that deserves to go to prison and make everybody happy. But nope, they're just sitting there with their sitting on their hands, saying, "Hey, oh, we got all this proof, guys. We can arrest him, but we're not going to." It's crazy, but because once the Democrats get back in power, they're gonna go after you guys. But hey, whatever, it is what it is. They're even out here like raiding places. This place got raided, bro. That's how bad it is, dude. They're going to these medical offices and freaking raiding them because they're are caught in a fraudulent money laundering scheme. Really crazy, bro. Yeah, so they're raiding these places, and I'm glad they are finding these people who are doing this. I think Tim Walz has a big part in it. You know, that's why he wants to change the Minnesota flag to make it look more like Somalian. Even Democrats are starting to call him out. This person is an advocate for the disabled people in Minnesota, and he has some pretty strong words to say against Tim Walz.
Madam Chair, I'm Nathaniel M. Olson, a disability advocate for the state of Minnesota. I've heard the commissioners and the Department of Human Services, but the one thing that I'm freaking worried about is this freaking fraud that is happening over our state, where there's 600,000 disability people in the state of Minnesota that could suffer. And sadly, it's quite interesting that we have Governor Walz speaking in front of the state and saying that this fraud is nothing but the side. But my people are done suffering. We're done with this fraud. We're done with the Department of Human Services coming up here and saying, oh, we're going to figure this out. This has been too long. The administration knew that this fraud was coming. I've talked to families, parents, everyone have been reaching out to me and saying, oh, this is what is happening to my child. This is what is happening to my child. We're afraid. We need to put aside these differences, and we need to come together and put a stop to this fraud. Our governor is not doing anything to help us, but sit here and decide he wants to blame Donald J., the President of the United States, who has nothing to do with this. There is a time to hold our governor accountable, and I'm not seeing it. This fraud is outrageous.
He's 100% right. And, you know, you can hear in his voice that he's really shaken up by this. And, you know, people who can't speak up for themselves are suffering from this. You know, we can sit here and be, you know, Democrat, Republican, oh, I got a gotcha moment on you. But people are suffering. Real people with real life issues like disabilities are suffering. And these medical programs are being taken away from people who actually need it. And good for this person to stand up and say something. So this is Tim Walz's reaction to all this and what he has to say about the money laundering. You think he feels sympathy for the people who are being affected by it? Let's watch this video.
This is one of, I don't want to say the number, it's countless numbers. Every night I get an update on this of the threats to our federal money on everything we do. Because look, right now it's very clear. The entire federal government is weaponized against Minnesota.
Oh my gosh, you're waking up in the middle of the night because you're receiving threats for having federal money withheld from your state? You care about money more than people? This dude is such a delusional idiot. And it's crazy that this dude almost became our vice president. If they won, if Kamala won, he would have been our vice president. He cares about his money more than the citizens that are there. And Minnesota continues to vote for these people.
And the issues of things that should be states' rights, states to control, they're threatening us with this. And this is what happens when you have a floundering presidency, and it is about those ballrooms and everything else. Now we're back on transgender.
You're complaining about the ballrooms. What about the $19 billion that are missing under your watch? What about that? No update about that. But yet they're going to still blame Trump. Somehow, some way they blame Republicans. That's all these liberals do. That's all these Democratic leaders do, is blame the other party. They are a screw up. They should be ashamed to be a leader in this country. Ashamed of themselves. But nope, they will probably go out there saying, nope, it wasn't my fault, guys. It was Trump's fault.
Folks, and these are healthcare providers providing the best guidance to parents and children to get their care. So we're assessing what it means.
They're not getting their care.
It's on every front. It's CDLs, it's
Good.
transportation money, it's money across the board that they have weaponized.
Good. And I hope, I just pray. I pray something happens where he gets arrested. I just want this. I want somebody to get arrested. Please arrest somebody. You just can't look like a goofy goober and act like a goofy goober and be incompetent at the same time. I can understand if you're a goofy looking guy and, you know, you do your job well. I've seen people like that, right? But you are a goofy goober looking dude and you're incompetent. That's the worst combination ever. Like, this dude looks like like something off of Malcolm in the Middle, the dad. That's who he reminds me of. That goofy goober dad who's totally wimpy, lets the mom run everything. That's who this guy would be if he wasn't the governor. If he never got into politics, this would be this guy. And this dude can stand up there with his chest out, trying to virtue signal, saying that all this is Trump's fault and I'm the victim. What a disgrace to this country. Resign, dude. Just resign. I really just want to take a second to just thank God. Thank God that Kamala and Walz did not win the election. I'm so grateful that Trump won. And they didn't just barely win, they destroyed them in the polls. Which is crazy because a lot of people still voted for Kamala and Walz. If they went into office, this would be our leadership right now. And we would definitely be in World War III. That's the one biggest thing I feared about Harris winning was World War III. But now everything is great. And these people, these fraudulent losers, they're losers. You are losers. Stealing from people. I just hope and pray that something really happens. The Trump administration needs to do something. All of us, all the conservatives are calling for the Trump administration to arrest somebody. Arrest one of these politicians. But they're too scared to for some reason. I don't know. I don't know if they have something against Trump that they won't release. They got to be something, right? Because I don't understand why they're not going after these people. Yeah, I just wanted to point this out because the media isn't covering this like it's nothing, like it's not a big deal. Like $19 billion, inflation is at an all-time high. $19 billion, that's nothing. That's but yet they complain about a ballroom that Trump is adding to the White House to make it more presentable when they have events over there. It's just wild to me. But what do you guys think about this? Do you guys think that this isn't a big deal? Go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Go ahead and like the video if you liked it. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Go ahead and hype up this video. Let people know about this goofy goober, man. This dude needs to resign. He needs to be arrested. But like I said, it probably won't happen. And I'll see you guys in the next video.